In today's video, we are going to be making these simple reading pillows. There are 2 steps that I did add to this reading pillow that you can definitely omit if you are a true beginner sewer. And of course, with Christmas around the corner, this is an awesome gift. But right now, I want to talk to you about those 2 changes that I made so that you can make your decision on whether you are going to add them or omit them. Now, the first one that I did was I quilted this back panel. So I quilted it onto some fusible fleece. You can easily quilt it onto some regular batting as well, but that is an optional step. If you skip that step, your pillow will still look great. And the second thing that I did, because I am gifting this pillow to kids that are a little bit older and they love reading their chapter books, I added this center seam here so that you can add 2 chapter books into your pillow. Now, if you are gifting this to someone younger or someone who just loves those larger books, then you can definitely omit that step and you'll be able to add whatever size book you want. Now, one more thing to know is what size pillow to put in your pillowcase. You will buy an 18-inch by 18-inch insert, which I will link in the description down below. And finally, if you love rag quilts, I made a rag quilt version of this pillow, which I will also add in the description down below. So with all of that said, let's get sewing. You will want your front large panel to measure 19 inches by 19 inches. And then if you are going to do the quilted back panel, you will also need some fusible fleece or batting, like I mentioned before, also cut at 19 inches by 19 inches. And then for the back of your pillow, because we're doing an envelope style finish, you will cut 2 pieces at 12 inches by 19 inches. And now for your pocket, that will be your front piece of fabric. You will cut that at 19 inches wide by 18 inches tall. And then for the handle, you will cut a strip of fabric at 3 inches by 10 inches. The first step will be to quilt our back panel. Now this step is optional, but if you chose to quilt it, you will grab your fusible fleece and press that so that it is connected to that front panel. If you chose to do batting, I do suggest cutting the batting a little bit larger, and then you can pin the batting to the fabric itself and you can quilt it from there and then trim away the excess batting. For myself, I chose to quilt this all in 1-inch increments. So I did that by drawing 1 line down the top, and then I used my walking foot and the guide that comes with my walking foot to sew all of the rest of the lines. If you don't have something like a walking foot and a guide, then all you have to do is draw all of those lines onto your panel and then sew following all of those lines. I do suggest, as you're drawing your lines onto your panel, you are using a water-soluble marking pen or a friction pen. And now it's time to make our handle. So grab your handle and fold it right sides together, and then you will sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance along that long edge. Afterwards, you can turn that right side out using a turning tool and then press it flat. That way you can sew a seam along both long edges again, creating a really nice finished handle. Now let's prep our 2 back panels. To do this, along the top long edge, you will fold that down a 1/2 inch, press that in place, and then fold it down 1 more 1/2 inch, pressing and pinning that in place. That way you can sew a seam along that inner fold all the way across, creating a really nice hem. You'll do that on both of these 12-inch by 19-inch panels. Now comes our pocket. It's time to fold our pocket in half, but make sure that the width of your pocket is the 19-inch width and you are folding the 18-inch height downwards. The reason why we want to fold a piece of fabric like this is because it will give our pocket just that little bit of extra stability to hold a book in place nicely. Then, once you've folded it in half, press along that edge, and then you can sew a 1/2 inch seam along that top folded edge, creating the look of another nice hem. And now it's time to lay our pocket on top of that front panel that we quilted earlier. Now this again is one of those optional steps where you can fold your pocket in half to find that center point or measure in to find your center point, and then mark a line down the center of your pocket, and then you can sew down that line, creating 2 pocket flaps. Now, if you're not sewing that seam, just lay your pocket in place and then clip it to that panel. Then grab your handle and clip that in place as well. For myself, I measured from the outer edge 7 inches in, and then I lined the outer edge of my handle up with that 7-inch mark, then clipping that handle in place. Now grab your 2 back panels and lay them in this order. The top panel you want to lay with the hem side on the bottom edge, and of course you want to lay it right side face down towards your panel. Pin it in place and then grab that second panel, making sure that the nice finished hem is on the top edge. Lay it right side down and then pin that one in place as well. As you're pinning everything in place, make sure your pocket is neatly pinned within that as well as your handle. Then take it to your sewing machine and you are going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance around the entire outer edge. You will start with a back stitch, and then as you go down and go over any of those edges, I want you to do a secondary back stitch on those edges as well. It'll just hold those pieces in place. That way, when you're tugging on them to put your pillow insert in, or you're tugging on the pocket to put the book in, those edges are just a little bit more secure. And then of course you will finish with a back stitch as well. Then before you turn it right side out, just clip all 4 of those corners away, making sure of course not to clip over your seam that you just sewed. And that will allow you to poke out those corners a little bit crisper. And if you are pressing out those corners with a tool, please be gentle, because if you push too hard, you can really poke right on through that fabric. Now, because we did not add a binding or any fancy edging to this project, you'll definitely want to take this to your iron and just give it a nice press. And then you've finished sewing your adorable reading pillow. I hope you enjoyed sewing this reading pillow, and please let me know in the comments down below, how many did you end up making? Because this is an addictive little project. Like I said, I've made 5 so far, and I don't intend on stopping. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, a very Merry Christmas, and happy sewing. Bye for now.